This is the discussion that I wanted to have. I wanted to kind of open up this this talk just because I've been asked a lot just about operators in general. And just the op meta. A lot of people have watched the video that Hiko made where he says the op is just a little bit broken right now. He doesn't think there's enough utility in the game to deal with it. And a lot of players are feeling validated in Hiko saying this. They're saying, okay, well, the op is busted. Hiko said it, so it's got to be true. The op is broken. That's why I'm dying to the op and stuff like that. And I think that although I don't have the grounds to argue with Hiko on it, he's a way better player than me and way better player than I'll probably ever be. Um, that being said, I think that a lot of people would agree, or a lot of high tier players, that most of the people who are dying to these operators and complaining about it, most of the people who heard Hiko say this and they're like vibing with it, they're like, yeah, amen, brother. Most of these people aren't dealing with ops appropriately to begin with. So them adding more utility to the game is not going to solve their problems. A lot of people are like, well, we need to have more utility to deal with these ops because Hiko said it. But the problem is you have the utility to deal with it very frequently. You're just not using it. If you're playing at a professional level and stuff like that, like Hiko is in these tournaments, yeah, maybe they run out of utility to deal with these operators and maybe the players are able to play around this. But if you're playing in your silver games and your brimstone's just not dropping smokes at the locations that you're getting opt from, then yeah, that's probably why you're getting then it doesn't matter if they add more smokes, you're not using them to begin with, so it's not going to make too much of a difference. So a lot of these players are like challenging ops in just stupid ways, or they're rifling incorrectly, and that's why they're actually dying. It has nothing to do with the operator itself. You have to remember going into a game like this, CS:GO has been around for years, and the operator has always been the same, as far as I know, anyway. It's always been a one-hit kill to the chest. It's always been used to hold down these sight lines. Maybe it's a little bit more aggressive sometimes in Valorant. Like maybe people do like crazier things, but I don't even know if that's necessarily true. It just a lot of people are complaining about the op, saying that it needs to be nerfed, or they're trying to like talk about price increases or something like that. You have to recognize the op is already incredibly expensive. 4,500 is a big investment to make. We've broken down some games before where players will buy op third round, and it will result in them like losing 4 rounds in a row because their eco is just absolutely destroyed. It's the utility problem that exists is not impacting you as a player unless you're a top tier player like Immortal above, even above Immortal. You would probably have to be a Radiant player for this to be like a massive issue or within these tournaments. I don't think that most people are having an issue with ops because of the lack of utility. That's basically what this is all about, right? So we could talk a little bit about how to deal with them. So for example, we've already discussed like smokes and stuff like that. You can teleport to different locations to play different sight lines. You can play off angles and stuff to deal with operators if they're going on offense and stuff. Or you can use an operator of your own to kind of counter it. A lot of people are like, okay, well, yeah, use the op to counter the op. Yeah, it can definitely help if you're holding down your own sight lines and stuff. It's hard to push angles with the op. It just is, and that's how the weapon is made by nature, right? It's not meant to be an aggressive weapon. It's meant to lock down these angles for these time periods. So that's why you just have to be using that utility. So yeah, they could have more utility, but I don't think that's like a big problem for most players. I think the problem with Valorant that this is part of the reason why the lack of utility is a big deal too. In Valorant, there's a lot of characters that can play these really weird off angles. So they'll be playing like on top of boxes and stuff like that you just would never expect in a million years. So when you're peeking these angles, you can't possibly scan every single angle that this player could possibly be playing, which is why there is a lack of utility. That's part of the reason, right? In CS you could get 5 smokes per character, and in Valorant you can get 3 for Brimstone, you can get 2 for Omen. So if you're running 2 smoke characters, that makes for the 5, right? And it's like his smokes refresh a little bit on Omen, right? But for the most part, you have to recognize that is your smokes for the team, right? So if one of those players goes down, you don't have those smokes anymore. It's a little bit more complicated in this regard. And then beyond that, there's more angles that players can play. So of course, like the basic locations that you could smoke become a lot more difficult. It's very interesting. If opt in a one body shot, it would be completely unviable. You might as well marshal. Yeah, the op needs to be a one hit. If the op was not a one hit, then it would not be the op. There's no reason to purchase the gun, right? That's part of the issue with the Odin, right? The cool thing about the Odin is that it has high wall pen, but it doesn't have the one hit to the head. So alternatively, you could run a Vandal and you could just peek them and tap them in the head and they'll die, right? So alternatively, if a player has better aim, it's going to be better to run a Vandal than an Odin. Raze main's wondering what utility to use against an operator. Like, there's no utility for Raze to use against an operator. That's the problem. This is what I was saying. It takes the teamwork. So I was just playing ranked with Breach. I was on my Smurf, and I've played so much Omen. This is what I was saying just a little bit earlier. I played so much Omen, and in Omen's kit, it feels like he has an answer for everything, which is why a lot of the times when I'm playing these games, or I'm saying like, oh, people just aren't using their utility correctly against ops. I totally understand that most of these people who are complaining about ops are like the duelists of the team. They're the characters who don't have this utility to deal with it. Breach doesn't really have a bunch of utility to deal with ops. He has his flashbangs, but that's about it. And even with the flashbangs, like I said, you don't always know if it's gonna flash the target, right? When I place a smoke as Omen and I place it in a location where the op is, like I know that they have been playing this location, I know that I'm not going to get opt from that location. As Breach, I could throw my flashbang out. Maybe they unpeaked, maybe they looked away from it, right? You can get like trash on it like that regard. If you're playing a character like Raze and you're dying to these operators, that's just like part of the character, right? That was what Raze lacks in utility that she needs her teammates to make up for. And duelists aren't intended to be these all-around characters that can do all these things. That's what you need the support characters there for, right? It's just like if they gave Sova like a smoke in his kit and then they also gave him a flashbang. That's right. That doesn't really make any sense for the character to be able to do everything in one. They really want the team to be built up of all these characters that really aid and help each other's out. And that's just going to be the direction that the game continues to go, right? They're never going to add a character that isn't all around. I think Omen is the closest thing. That's kind of my op talk, though, by the way. I don't really know. I might end up like cutting that down for people who aren't on the stream. I might upload that as a video. So if you did miss any of it, by the way, then like you can look forward to that. If you guys are watching on YouTube right now too, because we are streaming on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel down below too if you're not already subscribed. I know there's like a weird number where it's like 80% of the people who watch videos sometimes are like not actually subbed to the channel. I actually have like the statistics, and generally it's like weighs more on like the side of people who are not subbed. Not that it like costs you anything, like, you know. So just like there's like literally no reason not to. If you're watching the content, just do it anyway, right? Like